Welcome, everyone, to Beers with Jesus. Carrie is locked and loaded and ready for
Locked and
today.
loaded, baby.
I'm Todd. This is Todd's World, and one of my favorite shows on Todd's World. I've got, I think, three favorite
Yeah,
shows.
I know, me too.
So, listen, guys, we also
So
have
lucky.
the Wildly Opinionated News Hour that drops on Tuesdays. Every place, just like this, I drop it on Facebook. I drop entire episodes I'm talking about.
Hmm.
I put on Facebook, I put on X, put on Rumble, I put on YouTube,
Yep.
everywhere you get podcasts. So Spotify, Apple, iHeart, any of those. And yeah,
Go
I
check
think,
out news from yesterday. It was we end on some really fun craziness.
well, it's a crazy world we live in.
Yep,
Beers with Jesus is our anchor in a crazy world.
that's right. Grounds
So,
us.
yes.
I already feel grounded just being here. I feel like we need like some special Beers with Jesus intro music or
We
something.
have it. It's just you don't hear it. It's plugged in at the beginning. You're
I
supposed to
need it
pretend
like
like you
piped
hear
in. I
it.
need it piped in.
Let me just play some music for you. We can get this one taken down too.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we can't do it because
I made sure to keep Ding Dong the Witch is Dead under 20 seconds.
there you go. Is that the rule?
I
20
think it is
seconds?
the rule, yeah. Well, we talked about how the Pope died, and we were
Um,
playing Ding Dong the Witch is Dead in the news hour, so it's fun.
yeah,
But it depends on your view of the Pope, I suppose. But either way, there was a good witch
it
too. A lot
does.
of people think Elphaba was a good witch. That's what Wicked's all about. She was just misunderstood.
He was just misunderstood. Well, may he rest in peace.
Did you watch the Wicked movie or no?
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't watched it.
Yes.
I've seen the
Hmm.
play. I've seen the
It's very
musical
good.
two or
Okay,
three
yeah. The
times.
music is spectacular.
Hmm.
And I think the movie version of it was really well done.
You did.
Incredible talent. Oh yeah, it's
Okay.
fabulous. Casting's great.
Everybody I knew watched it really liked it.
Yeah.
Those two
There's some
actresses
people out
were
there who
just
are
so
like, it's
stupid in all of their promotion for it. I'm not sure I can get past it.
the promotion was really odd, but the movie's
Ariana
great.
and whatever that black chick's name is, I can't remember her name.
Yeah. Gwen something.
She was in.
Gwen? I can't remember.
I knew her from The Outsider, which is another Stephen King series, like a mini series. It's based on a Stephen King book, and it's on HBO.
Okay.
I told you about
Okay.
the other one. This one's
Yeah.
on HBO. It's called The Outsider,
The
and
Outsider.
and
Limited series
it's a
or a
limited
movie?
series. Yeah, it's like eight
Okay.
eight episodes, and it's fabulous. It's 2 or 3, 4 years
Okay.
old. I don't know, but it really
Okay.
is fabulous. I have to
Like a
say
whole
that
list.
Stephen King. Some of his movies can be hit or miss. Like some of them are
Yeah.
fabulous. Like you
Yeah,
talked
some of
about
them
with my
aren't
girls about the
executed.
Shawshank
Yeah.
Redemption,
Right.
Green
Did
Mile.
did
I
you
mean,
watch it with them yet?
no, I haven't. But honest to God, it's like it takes an act of Congress for us to like all get together in one place and watch a movie. It's
All
like
right.
we do
We'll
it
just
at
announce it. Be
Christmas.
like Shawshank. Be here. Be here. They need to be there.
um, so some of them are great. Some of
So,
them are so stupid, like Tommy Knockers. Like there's
okay.
horrible
I did
Stephen
not
King
see it. Okay.
adaptions. There's some really good ones, but in the limited series, they seem to do a pretty good
Mhm.
job. Even the old miniseries, it was pretty good. With
Yeah.
what was that guy's name? Who was the clown? I can't remember.
Wait, you talking about it?
The original It, yeah.
Oh yeah. Tim
Tim, what's his name? I forgot. It's
Tim.
not O'Leary, is it? No,
No, it's
that's a
oh
different.
my
I know who that
gosh.
is. I see. I can't remember either.
Soon as I said Tim, as soon as I said Tim, it was gone. I feel
Yeah,
terrible. He's extremely famous.
yeah.
Anyway,
The original Pennywise the clown.
woo,
He did a
he
good
was
job.
scary.
Yeah,
He did.
terrified an entire generation of clowns in the sewers.
100%. Thanks, Stephen King.
You remember that iconic scene with the little boy and his yellow. See, they carried it into the new one,
Georgie.
so everybody remembers it. You know what I mean? Everybody
Yep.
mixes it up now, but that
Oh
was
my
that
gosh,
original
yeah.
scene
It's
in the movie
so,
that
oh, he was so cute. Running down in the rain in his little slicker. Oh gosh, it was just,
Stephen King in his prime.
oh, I know. Brilliant. So, anyway, so this is called The Outsider.
Yeah, it's good. You should watch it. And I hear The Chosen's good. I never have watched The Chosen. You watch it?
You talking about the
The
like the
the
Jesus
show, yeah,
story?
the Jesus show that's out right now that everybody loves.
I've seen a handful of episodes and it looks excellent.
Yeah, I've seen probably two episodes and I thought they were really good,
Hmm.
but I haven't gone back and watched it. So,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean anything. That happens to me with shows. I don't spend a lot of time watching TV, and a lot of time when I turn the TV on, it's like I'm gonna fall asleep, and I'm not wanting to watch. I'm not wanting to watch 10 minutes of something that not gonna see. So I'll turn on like anything, like who's that chef that offed himself? Anthony Bourdain.
Oh,
He's his
did he
old
really?
shows. Yeah, that was a while back.
I know he died. I didn't realize that he had
He
killed
committed suicide.
himself.
Yeah. And
Wow.
anyway, I really like his show, his old CNN shows, and
Yeah.
they're really good. So some of those kinds of things
Yeah,
are what I
he's good.
watch. So
Yeah.
today we're in Acts 3.
Acts 3.
And I'm going to start at the beginning. Last week we started in Acts 3 and we went through the story at the beginning. And then we're going to get into Peter's sermon today. But I'm going
Okay.
to start back at the beginning of Acts 3 just because it's a short enough story and people need to know the story, kind of walking into what Peter's talking about.
I think we need to tell people to go listen last week, but that's just me.
We should
No,
do
I'm not.
both, but this would be a good refresher. Man,
Okay.
my Bible's falling apart. I use it so much. Look at me
Hmm.
go. I'm like a modern day Billy Graham. Beers with Jesus. Just cue the invitation music.
You're,
You're into your car right now. Pull off to the side of the road.
is that what he would say?
um, so Acts
Ah,
Acts 3.
okay. Acts
One
3.
day, we only use the message here. So if you don't like the message, then you're wrong. Um,
The message version. Okay.
I I happen to like it, and so it's Todd's World, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
And Carrie likes it too. She's grown to love it.
I have. I really I enjoy it for what it is. Yes.
Yes, for what it is. Till the Pope sanctions it, we can't be quite sure about it. And now we got to wait for a new Pope. Who knows when they'll get around to
Oh my
actually
gosh. I
sanctioning the
know.
message. Okay.
While we're allowed to use the message, we're going to use it.
Okay. One day at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Peter and John were on their way into the temple for prayer meeting. At the same time, there was a man crippled from birth being carried up. Every day he was set down at the temple gate, the one named Beautiful, to beg from those going into the temple. When he saw Peter and John about to enter the temple, he asked for a handout. Peter, with John at his side, looked him straight in the eye and said, "Look here." He looked up, expecting to get something from them. Peter said, "I don't have a nickel to my name, but what I do have I give you. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, walk." He grabbed him by the right hand and pulled him up. In an instant, his feet and ankles became firm. He jumped to his feet and walked. The man went into the temple with them, walking back and forth, dancing and praising God. Everybody there saw him walking around and praising God. They recognized him as the one who sat begging at the temple's gate, Beautiful, and rubbed their eyes astonished, scarcely believing what they were seeing. The man threw his arms around Peter and John, ecstatic. All the people ran up to where they were at Solomon's porch to see it for themselves. So that's what we talked about last week. Now we're going to get into the rest of Acts 3. But that's the
Hmm.
background for you people out there who
Right.
inexcusably missed last week and have not gone back and listened to it. Okay. When Peter saw he had a congregation, he addressed the people. "O Israelites, why does this take you by such complete surprise? And why stare at us as if our power or piety made him walk? The God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, the God of our ancestors, has glorified his son Jesus. The very one that Pilate called innocent, you repudiated. You repudiated the Holy One, the Just One, and asked for a murderer in his place. No, you no sooner killed the author of life than God raised him from the dead. And we're the witnesses. Faith in Jesus' name put this man, whose condition you know so well, on his feet. Yes, faith and nothing but faith. Put this man healed and whole right before your eyes. And now, friends, I know you had no idea what you were doing when you killed Jesus, and neither did your leaders. But God, who through the preaching of all the prophets had said all along that his Messiah would be killed, knew exactly what you were doing and used it to fulfill his plans. Now it's time to change your ways. Turn to face God so he can wipe away your sins, pour out showers of blessing to refresh you, and send you the Messiah he prepared for you, namely Jesus. For the time being, he must remain out of sight in heaven until everything is restored to order again, just the way God, through the preaching of his holy prophets of old, said it would be. Moses, for instance, said, your God will raise up for you a prophet just like me from your family. Listen to every word he speaks to you. Every last living soul who refuses to listen to that prophet will be wiped out from the people. All the prophets from Samuel on down said the same thing, said most emphatically that these days would come. These prophets, along with the covenant God made with your ancestors, are your family tree. God's covenant word to Abraham provides the text. By your offspring, all the families of the earth will be blessed. But you are first in line. God, having raised up his son, sent him to bless you as you turn one by one from your evil ways. And I'm going to read the first paragraph of chapter 4. While Peter and John were addressing the people, the priest
Hmm.
and the chief of the temple police and some Sadducees came up, indignant that these upstart apostles were instructing the people and proclaimed that the resurrection and proclaiming that the resurrection from the dead had taken place in Jesus. They arrested them and threw them in jail until morning, for by now it was late in the evening. But many of those who listened had already believed the message, in round numbers, around 5,000. There we go.
Good job.
I thought that was worth. I feel like sometimes with chapter
Hmm.
divisions, like that first paragraph, like it to tell you that 5,000 people believe Peter's mess. That seems like it's part of the story before. You know what I mean?
Yes, I feel like that break was just in the wrong place
Yeah.
by one paragraph. Um, yeah. So,
So we had the story we talked about last week was which was the healing of the beggar dude,
hmm.
right? And we talked about that.
Right.
And then
Hmm.
Peter heals him. They walk into the temple together. This dude's dancing all over, and everybody knows that this is the lame beggar who sat
The
at the temple
crippled, yeah.
gate. Yeah. And then it says all these people are looking, and Peter, when he saw he had a congregation, man, he's like, dude, he's got a sermon ready.
He does.
He's ready to
It
go.
it's very I know, it's very thorough. He's got the history. I mean, he calls them out, but then he says, "Listen, you didn't know. God, God knew."
Yeah.
Kind of like, you know,
I think it's just
describes
cool that
that
Peter's ready to
that
go.
boundary.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's totally ready. And
Like this
Tony even goes through
message
then
is
the
so much a part of
history.
him that he's
Right.
ready. Like it doesn't matter what
Hmm.
happens, it doesn't matter if he's surprised by it. He's got the message of the gospel like it's front
Hmm.
and center for him, and it's so front and center for him that as soon as he realizes there's a few people gathering around, he's like,
Hmm.
"Carpe diem, baby. Let's seize the day."
Right. He does. And he's got the whole like history laid out too with the prophets. They're very familiar with these prophets. I know they know Moses. I guess he says, Samuel. He mentions Samuel. I'm
Yeah,
assuming that they all know these main prophets. And
yeah,
um he is he's ready. He's ready to lay out the case for
for
their need
Jesus.
to change.
Yeah,
Yep, for Jesus. Jesus is the one they've all been waiting for.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think yeah that was what that was kind of what stuck with me about it is, and he wanted to make sure that they knew that hey, it's not anything, there's nothing special about us. We're not the reason this guy's up and walking around. This is all Jesus.
Right. Hmm.
Because which
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. That
to be
struck me
fair,
at first.
this echoes another one, and I think it was the blind guy, remember? And Jesus heals the blind guy, and then the blind guy goes into the temple, and then the Pharisees start,
Hmm.
and the Pharisees get mad at Jesus because he's causing a scene and all these things, and then the Pharisees
Hmm.
are trying to pin the blind guy who received his sight to the wall. And he's like, they're like, well, who was it? Was it this? Was it that? Did he claim to be king of the Jews? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, one thing I know. Once I was blind and now I see. And that's it. You know what I mean? It's like God uses
Right.
these kinds of miraculous healings, like he did with
Hmm.
this guy, to
Hmm.
kind of like break into our worlds, like miracles and healings and whatever,
Hmm.
something that's the out of the ordinary, out of our ordinary experience,
Out of the natural world, obviously.
and it's shocking. Like, and it
Right.
puts people in shock and awe, but he uses it to kind of break into our worlds because we have these kind of cozy realities set up where we're pretty comfortable. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And he shakes us awake, and then he's always shaking us awake for a purpose, and the purpose is Peter's sermon. The purpose is, okay,
Hmm.
turn and face God if you haven't. Like that, why did I show up in this special way? Because it's
Hmm.
time for you. There's something you're not paying attention to about me, or that I've called you to, or whatever it is. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And Peter
Um,
lays it out for the people. So God got their attention, and then he gave Peter the perfect opportunity, and Peter
hmm.
took it.
Yeah, he did. I'm sorry, I just got a little distracted because I needed to look up something quickly. I was listening to you, but I'm looking at how you said these miracles, shake up.
Yeah.
I was talking with my daughter the other day about a psychology concept
Okay.
in which um, she was using the word schema, and a schema is kind of like the way you understand something. It's
Heard
a
that word.
A schema. A
Yeah.
schema is how we understand our world.
Would it be like a
And
paradigm
then
almost,
kind of, yeah,
or
I would say
different a
just
little bit?
it's your yeah, it's just the structure. No, I think it's probably it could my very limited understanding of it. It sounds like it could be
Okay.
a good synonym for it. Sure.
Like a
So it's how
worldview.
we understand something. A
So like
worldview, just how we understand our world, like
what
this
we're
right here.
processing
Hmm.
events through.
Absolutely. So this miracle um, shattered the schema of these people. Well, and the blind man, his schema was, I'm blind, I can't see, this is my life.
Yeah.
And whether it's conscious or not, this is always going to be my life. Then Jesus heals him. It shatters his schema.
Yeah.
Okay. He now says, and that's what he says to those questioning him. Did he say this? Did he say that? He's like, listen, here's what I know. Like you just
Yeah.
said. I was blind. Now I see. Same thing as this beggar, this crippled beggar. He he couldn't walk, and everyone knows it. So what I'm saying is, everyone who knew this guy on the temple steps, their schema was, included the idea that this man can't walk. He is
God
who he is. He
shattered
probably
their
didn't
schemas.
shattered their schemas. Now, and
Oh my God.
the reason I bring the reason I bring this up
That sounds
is
horrible.
well, it is, but actually this is in a positive way. We were talking, when I talked with my daughter, we were talking about how grief, like losing someone or something traumatic happening in your life, can shatter
It
your
does the same
schema.
thing. Yeah,
Right now,
exactly.
it does the same thing.
Hmm.
So, but during that time, what follows in our perception of our worlds is chaos.
Yeah.
And so these people right now, and that is, you're in the perfect place to rebuild a new schema.
Yeah.
And Peter, you said, is ready. So these people, their schema is this guy's lame. They probably don't even think about him. Boom, they see him healed by these guys.
Yeah.
And Peter uses that opportunity. Everything's shattered. All of their understanding of their natural world is completely up for grabs, kind of. It's a chaotic state. It's all up for grabs. And Peter capitalizes on it and uses that opportunity to explain, we didn't do this. This is the power of Jesus. This was the prophecy. You participated in it. You didn't know. But guess what? You have a chance to fix it. Change your ways, turn towards Him, live your life the way that you're supposed to, and listen to us. We're going to tell you how to do that. So
Yeah.
he capitalizes on that shattered their shattered perception of everything that, they thought they knew.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just think it's a really effective time. And I think those miracles we talked last time, I think we talked last time because of the healing
Hmm.
about, like they don't happen as much now. Like, but I thought other things in our lives do that.
Yeah.
Other things in our
Well,
lives
certainly on a more
shatter
limited,
everything.
on a more,
And
well,
yeah.
depends whether it's limited or
But
not.
but but difficult things happen and they can shatter that for us too. And I think it's not as exciting, it's not as positive, but we still, when everything that we know is destroyed, we have an opportunity to turn to him,
Yeah.
you know, to rebuild it the
Well,
right
no, I
way.
think you make a good point there, and I think maybe what kind of that ultimate underlying schema is that reality is fixed. Our realities are fixed. So they look at this guy and
Mm-hmm.
he's
Yes.
lame. His reality is that's what life is going to
Yeah.
be for him. That his reality is fixed. But
Hmm.
we apply that to everything. We tend to look at things and we say that what we see right now,
We do.
this
Hmm.
reality is fixed. And Jesus' message is something totally different. Jesus and Peter's message is the same thing, which is no, the reality is not fixed. God came and shattered the worldwide schema. And
Yep.
and I think these people, this isn't that far. We're what, 50, 60 days, maybe 2 months removed from Jesus' death and resurrection.
Right.
But not
Okay.
just his death and resurrection. Like for 3 years, he had ministered all
Hmm.
over. Everybody knew about the miracles of Jesus. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so
Right.
when Peter and John walk in and when they function just like Jesus, and then they have the
Yes.
exact same message that Jesus had, I
Hmm.
think what that part of what these people are realizing is, hey, it shatters the scheme and it says this is the next that what Jesus was, that's not over. And that's their whole message. Their whole
Right.
message is he's raised from the dead. In fact, look at us. What
Right.
you're seeing right now, we're the continuation of what he began.
Right. They credited him, and so it continues his ministry, even though he's physically not there.
Right. But I
Yeah,
think it
it's
also kind
continuing.
of authorizes it kind of in the people's mind
Yes.
because they see this and they see his disciples
Hmm.
functioning and carrying on just exactly like Jesus did. And
Right.
they say, they're whatever else they are, they're telling the truth. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Or that's the reaction. And then you get three
Right.
thousand people on the day of Pentecost. You get 5,000 people on this one day. Like the church is exploding, and you can see why these. We're going to get into it next. Well, not next week, the week after, because
Oh,
we're taking next
okay.
week off. But Carrie's going to be out of town, so next week we're not going to be around, but we'll be back the following week, and we'll be into chapter 4, and we're going to see
Hmm.
that these religious leaders are. It wasn't just Jesus; they're scared to death of everything that follows Christianity of his disciples because he's actively threatening and shaking up institutions and foundations and their
Right.
realities, and
Hmm.
they're real attached to their realities.
They are. It's another way that Jesus conquered death
Yeah, it
because
really is.
they thought they could kill him and kill the church and kill his
Hmm.
message and kill his ministry, but it doesn't happen at all.
No, it's
Hmm.
so yeah, it's encouraging to see these people functioning and being just like Jesus.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's cool. Todd, I have a question. When Jesus, after he rose from the dead and before he ascended to heaven, you talked about how he spent that time with the
Hmm.
disciples and taught them. And he was like around town, but
He's
I can't
chilling.
remember where it was. It was something
Jesus was
just
straight
chilling
chilling in the
for like
city
what was it?
cafe.
Like 40,
Yeah, for
was
40
it 30,
days.
40 days? What was it?
40
Okay,
days.
40 days. But is it true that some people couldn't see him? Did he not reveal himself to everyone? I just I can't remember where I heard that
Well, it
or
depends on what you
read that.
mean
It was
by
in a
that.
reading. It was implied. It was implied, and
I
I was
mean,
like,
I'm sure he
"Dang, I
didn't
need to
show
ask about
himself to
that."
everyone, but the question is, if what you mean by that could he have been walking down the street and people just wouldn't see? I don't know. That's kind of a weird idea. Or could he appear in a room and only half the people would see him and the other half wouldn't?
Okay, no,
I
and
don't
that would
think
be
so.
weird, but I mean, but
He
I would
didn't
think that
show
the
up to
people who went
everybody.
after him would have tried. Okay, he would have tried, they would have tried to go after him again
I get the feeling
if they
that,
had known he was
Jesus, I mean, he
around
was seen by
town.
500 witnesses, but in the great scheme of things, when you think of
Okay.
how Jesus' ministry was, I mean, that was a slow day for Jesus, right? He fed 5,000 once, he fed 4,000 once. Like he had throngs of people around him all the time.
Yeah.
So I think Jesus was kind of trying to stay close to what the impression I get is that he spent that 40 days staying
Hmm.
close to kind of more his inner core of believers and
Okay.
kind of putting this all together for him. I think everything we get in the epistles, everything we get in these sermons, I think all of that
Yeah.
was Jesus bringing all this together for him in those 40 days
Okay.
and getting them really set and really prepared
Sure.
so that the second they got that Holy Spirit, I mean, he had the man
Hmm.
or the men created for the work, and then he created the work and they fall in, and then they take off. And that's why you see just this amazing it's a spiritual move of God, a revival, this beginning of the church where everything is changing. All their
Right.
realities are changing. God's messing with everything.
Yep.
and
Everything.
and
Flipped it upside down.
you thought that if you killed him, you ended it. Because that's what you've
Right.
always experienced. In your experience,
Sure.
anytime you kill something, it's over. But God defeated death, and there's
Hmm.
a new reality, and death isn't the end. That's the new reality. So it's time for you to turn
Right.
and
It's not
face
the end of
God.
God.
Yeah.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be the end of us. And that God
R-
works through. There's something
Right.
encouraging, maybe a little bit, to these people that you didn't know what you were doing, but God always knew what you were doing, and God was going to use it.
Right.
And there's something I think we can take into our own lives where we've had issues or things that we go through times. Maybe we've fallen away, maybe we haven't believed like we should, whatever the case, where
Yeah.
you didn't know what you were doing. And then you come back and you've got maybe some grief or maybe some of those consequences hang out, right? Some of that fruit is still hanging out and still comes to bear
Right.
years down the road, right? And
Sure.
maybe you can we can take comfort in the fact that we didn't know what we were doing, but God always knew what he was doing and he was always going to use everything we did to advance his purposes in our lives. And that's where he's faithful.
That's comforting.
I
That's
read a verse this week
right.
and I can't remember where it was that said viewed from it, God is faithful, powerful and faithful from every angle. And I thought that's an interesting way to
Mm.
think. Like it doesn't matter where you look at God. It doesn't matter how you look at God. It doesn't matter where your view is coming from. He's powerful and he's faithful from every angle. That's one of those messages. You don't get that outside the message. You don't get the.
You do. You just have to sometimes like sift through, interpret it. But no, you is it Eugene? Who is it?
Eugene
Eugene
Peterson.
Peterson. It's a cool way of saying it. No, that's really encouraging, Todd, because you and I mean, we can only speak for ourselves. We've made mistakes in our lives, and um, it's encouraging to think that, I mean, we know God can use everything we've done, but he knows. Like he already knows that what we're going to do. He knows where we're going to screw up,
Yeah.
and he's going to use all of it, and there is just something comforting in that.
That old verse,
I don't know.
I think it's in Philippians that, and this is not going to be the message version because so many verses I grew up with, of course, I memorized in the King James, but it's that he who began a
Yeah.
good work and you will be faithful to complete it, right?
Yes.
And it's
Yep.
that idea. And I think Peter's whole point is that this is God. This is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, of your forebears. And God began this work in Israel. In fact, when he says,
Hmm.
um, but you, God having raised up, that they're the first fruits, essentially. You know what I mean? That they're the,
Hmm.
where does he say it? He says, now it's time, change your ways, blah, blah, blah. Um, These are the prophets, God's covenant word to Abraham, but you are first in line. The Israel was first, natural Israel was first in line. God was going to take it and he's going to
Mm-hmm.
grow it into the bigger tree he's always been working with, and he's going to incorporate everybody, and there's going to be a bunch of Jews, natural Jews, that aren't going to believe, and those branches are going to be broken off while all these other wild olive shoots are grafted in. But by the time God's done, he's going to have his spiritual Israel in full
Mm-hmm.
in full bloom. I think that's kind
Right.
of what he's talking about when he says that that God's waiting until all things are kind of until everything is restored to order again, just the way God said it would be. Like through this age of the church of Christ functioning through his body of believers on earth, we're growing the kingdom. We're restoring,
Mm-hmm.
we're supposed to be. We're restoring God's order. We're supposed to be. Don't know how
Right.
effective we are have been, or I mean you could argue that all of Western civilization was an attempt, was a move in that direction. You know, all of the things that we treasure so much, like freedom of speech
Mm-hmm.
and you know, all these different things, those were all conceived in this idea of God given rights. You know what I mean? And all of that
Yes.
finds its roots. All of it finds its roots in Christianity. Prior to Christianity, there wasn't a drop of that really, or certainly prior
Right.
to God beginning to work with the Jews. It begins to come into
Mm-hmm.
formation. You can see the cone starting to kind of narrow, and um
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, that's God saying, "Listen, this is God restoring His created order." And this is how he's chosen to do it. You think, well, I think he should have done it a different way. Well, maybe. I don't know. But this is how he decided to do it.
Take that up with him,
He decided to use the church, and
Todd.
you could think, I don't like
Mhm.
the church. I don't think they're very good. I don't like the church a lot of times either, but God loves the church. And so he's going to make of it what he will. And again, I'm
Right.
not sure we need to lay down a bunch of friendly fire all the time.
True. And I don't think that the things that people dislike about church usually don't have anything to do with God. It's usually about
Maybe.
some of the people. So Todd, I don't want to get into the weeds. I know we won't get into the weeds here um, about Jewish people and their beliefs, but it just came up. One of my sons and I were talking about it, and he asked, and I was like, I don't know how to answer that. And this seems like a perfect time to ask. Do you know why some Jewish people at that time did not believe that Jesus was the Messiah? I mean, he had been,
Well,
every prophet had said,
most didn't and
he's
most
coming, he's
don't.
coming, he's coming. Right. And like today, we have the Jewish people who don't believe that Jesus Christ was the one that was predicted. He's not the Messiah. So I'm just curious at that time, thinking about what he achieved, how the church then emerged afterwards, as we're reading about today. I'm just thinking, what was the hang up? What didn't they like or didn't see that was convincing to them in Jesus's life? What
Well,
stood in the
Jesus,
way of
yeah,
it?
that was you. I mean, Jesus was the hang up. He just like
Is he just
whatever
not?
in the world they expected God to be or the
Yeah.
Messiah to be,
Hmm.
it wasn't that. I first of all, I don't think they expected the Messiah to claim to be God. I think that was a big hang up. I don't think
Okay.
just
Oh, did
don't
they
think
feel like it was blasphemous?
yeah, 100%. That's why they accused him of it over
Okay.
and over
The
again.
Son of God was too close for them?
Well, it's the same thing. He's claiming he says to these Pharisees, Jesus does. He says, "Before Abraham was, I am." Do you understand? Like we
Ah,
may not pick that up loud and
yeah.
clear, but to the Pharisees,
Hmm.
Jesus might as well have a bullhorn and say, "I am God." Like that's what he's saying, and they are
Right.
just like that
Right.
is if there's one people in all the world that would be least responsive to that, it would be the Jewish culture that it that if you look through the law, if you look through everything, it said the Lord our Lord is one God, and this monotheism is baked so hard into them. Now I still think He's one God.
Okay.
I don't think, but not in there the way they had their
Right.
boxes
It's a
set up.
mystery.
They can't. They didn't have any
Yep.
room for the Son of God and God. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? And I'm not sure that
Right.
Jews today are it talks about how Jesus is the stumbling block. He's the stone that the builders rejected. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so
Hmm.
I just think that everything that was in their systems, even though God was there, it had grown into, it had been institutionalized, and it had been grown into something that even those steeped in it couldn't recognize him when he came. And I don't know, the church stands in danger of the same thing today. When the church becomes so institutionalized,
Okay.
it can get to the point where
Yep.
would you even know Jesus if the real Jesus showed up Sunday morning? Or would we be like, it's like, remember that old Colin Ray song, What If Jesus Comes Back Like That? It was a song from like the 90s. Country, you might not listen to country.
Okay.
But yeah, it's that same kind of
I
like,
don't
we're
remember
not
that,
going to
but it's an
probably
interesting thought.
recognize him once we've institutionalized ourselves, and we've got together all our systematic theologies and all our boxes, and we've got it all figured out exactly what a move of God's going to look like. Then in the early 1900s, the Pentecostal movement hits, and almost the entire institutional church rejects it because it doesn't fit any of the boxes that they have. And I'm not saying that the
Got it.
Pentecostal movement didn't go out and didn't go overboard and whatever, all the different things. Point
Right.
is, whenever God moves, he never moves like we expect. And if we don't have room for it, then we're left behind. I mean, that's the thing. Jesus tells his
Hmm.
disciples, remember when he sends them off? He sends them off like two by two, and he says, don't worry about meals, don't worry, take this wherever you go, just present the
Hmm.
gospel. And if they reject you, don't fight with them, don't argue with them, just turn, shake the dust off your feet. And then he makes the statement that I can promise you that for whatever town you leave that didn't respond to you at all, it'll be worse for them than for Sodom and Gomorrah in the last days. Like, it's a
Oof.
pretty stout rejection. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, yeah, I think it's just Jesus. I think we have the same problem today, is that we need,
Hmm.
I think at least Church in America, I think we need a fresh move of the Spirit. And my guess would be it would look
Hmm.
like nothing. My guess would be if that fresh move of the Spirit comes, it'll be powerful and there'll be a lot of people that it'll touch, but most of the church will see it as a threat because that's just been how history goes. You know what I mean? Most of the institutional church, most of the organized church will see a fresh move
Right.
of God as a threat to their institutional organizations.
I can imagine that. I think that where I would question it is if it doesn't sound biblical.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, and I mean, that's the
I'm
problem.
pretty institutionalized, you know. I was
Well,
raised
yeah.
Catholic, and I mean, I just think, but it's like, what can we rely on? And I think, well, you're going to have to rely on the Bible.
But the other problem with real moves of God
Uh-huh.
is that they're never clean. Everything
I
always gets
know.
messy. And so you get elements that get mixed in that aren't necessarily of God. But
Okay.
yet when you try to tighten down things to stop those elements from popping up, you end up stopping the real moves of God, and it can become a real difficult. Well, I think
Mm-hmm.
the answer probably is that Jesus didn't. Jesus never intended the church to be institutionalized. It wasn't an accident. I don't think
Well,
that was ever the purpose.
but I mean, okay,
But
that's
that's what
fair,
we do as humans.
but how do you I
We organize things and
know
we
it's what we do.
institutionalize things.
Right. I mean, hey, Jesus organized a group of guys. He organized a group of
Hmm.
guys. He taught them. He had a plan to build the
Sure.
church. So, I mean, did he think that those 11 who remained were going to be enough? Like, no. I mean, he
No, no, he
he
wanted to
knew.
grow it.
Right. Yeah.
But I
And
don't think
it's
he
it
ever.
can't really grow without it sort of becoming a forming a hierarchy of some sort. It's just
I think the
natural.
problem is that everybody, when as they institutionalize, and this doesn't matter
Mhm.
whether they're Catholic or Baptist or whatever, but they all want to get their ducks in a
Mhm.
row, and they all want everybody to be on the same page. Everybody's got to believe just like us. Whereas if you
Mhm.
read the epistles and you read
Right.
Paul, Paul is like, listen, do what your conscience says. If some of you are bothered by the fact that you don't want to eat meats offered to idols, don't eat meats offered to idols. If you think idols aren't real, what difference does it make? Just live by your conscience. You should all be able to live together
Okay.
with some ambiguity. And we are not very good at that. We don't like ambiguity. We like
Oh no.
all our
No.
boxes checked. And so we want to know, if
Right.
you're going to take communion at our church, you've checked all the boxes. And that's just one
Absolutely. Well, I
thing,
mean, it
but it
definitely
filters
yeah.
everywhere. And maybe we're just like that
It
as
affords
people. I don't know.
us. it's true. I mean, it affords us the opportunity to say, well, like, I know this part. Like, I know this part. You may not be clear on this part, but I'm clear on this
Wait.
part.
I
So
got this
therefore,
answer.
I'm yeah. Yeah. So,
And that's why I think we see it with the healings, but I think you're going to see it in different ways that God,
mhm.
whenever God really wants to move, he
Yeah.
has to be disruptive. It's always disruptive. It's always disruptive. It's always disruptive. And it's never comfortable.
Right.
Like we really like comfort. We really like our big
Mhm.
Sunday shows, and we like knowing they start at 10, and we like knowing they're
Right.
getting out at noon, and we like our preacher who gives us a pretty good show. Pretty
Yeah.
happy with it. And the worship team who rocks along and they do a really good job, and then we can go home and we can get on with the rest of our life. But it's very predictable. We don't have to worry about it. Like God
Hmm.
probably isn't going to get outside of that too much in our experience. Kind of keep them right there.
Right.
But that's everybody. It's everywhere when it comes to an institutional church. And then if you
Hmm.
try to have some kind of a gathering that breaks out of institution,
Hmm.
then everybody feels like this is weird as hell. Nobody even really likes it. This is so uncomfortable. Like, you know what I mean? Because we don't function like that. We want something predictable. We just want to go to the movies, man. God, can I just
Yeah.
have
To
Raiders of the
see the
Lost Ark
show.
if there was a problem? I don't. So I
I
think
saw,
that's why
yeah.
God's so disruptive is when he really wants to do something, he has to shake us up. And you're right in what you and Clarissa were talking about. Sometimes that can be grief. Now, like on a family side, that's going to be somewhat more limited in the actual impact, but it can have big impacts in that family. I'm not saying it can't. And then a member of
Hmm.
that family can go on and have big impacts in the kingdom. Maybe the whole family can, whatever the case.
Right.
But you could take like a 9/11 kind of thing and you could stretch out
Sure.
into like a bigger kind of where that grief kind of stretches out over a
Yes.
country, and then it can have the same
Absolutely.
effect. You know what I mean? So
Yes,
that's one
definitely.
way. Instability is another way. Economic instability, hard
Hmm.
times. Oh, there's all kinds of different ways, and the ways that God does it for us
Hmm.
personally, He can do it on a bigger scale sometimes. You know what I mean? But He's always
Definitely.
going to shake us up. In fact, that reminds me. I wanted to go to this. So
Oh, cool.
you're going to be like, "What?" When I say
No, I am.
Haggai, who probably have no Haggai is a minor prophet with 2 chapters in the book.
Okay.
But the book of Haggai I read not very long ago. And what's going on in the book? Haggai was one of the few successful prophets in in later Israel times. Well, in general in Israel. Israel rejected a lot of its prophets. But Haggai they didn't. So in Haggai,
Is this
God
Old Testament
it's
now?
Old Testament. Yep.
Okay.
So in Haggai, it says the message of God comes to Haggai. He's the prophet. He takes it
Oh,
to the people of Israel.
okay.
And the message of God is um, the people procrastinate. They say this isn't the right time to rebuild my temple, the temple of God. How is it it's the right time for you to live in your fine new houses while the home God's temple is in ruins? And then he gives them another prophecy and he says, take a good hard look at your life. Think it over. You've spent a lot of money, but you don't have much to show for it. You keep filling your plates, but you never get filled up. You keep drinking and drinking and drinking, but you're always thirsty. You put on layer after layer of clothes, but you can't get warm. And the people who work for you, what are they getting out of it? Not much. A leaky, rusted out bucket. That's what. Take a good hard look at your life. Think it over. Then God said, here's what I want you to do. Climb into the hills, cut some timber, bring it down and rebuild the temple. Do it just for me. Honor me. You've had great ambitions for yourselves and nothing came of it. The little that you have brought to my temple I've blown away. There was nothing to it. And why? Because while you've run around caught up with taking care of your own houses, my home is in ruins. That's why. Because of your stinginess. And so I've given you a dry summer and a meager crop. I've matched your tight fisted stinginess by decreeing a season of drought, drying up fields and hills, withering gardens and orchards, stunning vegetables and fruit. Nothing, not man or woman, not animal or crop, is going to thrive. So then this is what I think is so cool, and this is so different from most of the Old Testament. Then the
Okay.
governor Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, and the high priest Joshua, son of Jehozadak, and all the people with them listened, really listened to the voice of their God. When God sent the prophet Haggai to them, they paid attention to him, and in listening to Haggai, they honored God. They changed their lives. Haggai's
Wow.
message to him through the entire second chapter is get to work. That's his whole point. Like I've disrupted you. All of this stuff isn't coming to any kind of you're not getting any kind of blessings. Nothing's working out like it should because God wants to shake them up to go get to work on the work he's given them to do. And the whole point is just get to work. And as soon as they get to work, God turns on the spigots of blessing. And they actually listened to him this
Wow.
time. They actually turned to him, which the people did
Nice.
with Peter the same way. Like 5,000 people. How
Hmm.
many people could have been in the temple? You know what I mean?
Right.
It must have been most of the crowd. I don't know how many people could fit in there, but 5,000 is a lot. And they're all
That's a
listening
lot.
to Peter because God stepped into their worlds, healed this guy, and created this disturbance,
Hmm.
pissed off all the Pharisees. But for the people,
True.
they shook them up and they saw this reality, and they're like, this Jesus guy, he was real, and his followers are real, and what he's telling us is real, and we're following him. And the kingdom is on the move, the kingdom
Wow.
is building. You know what I mean? And,
Hmm.
and anyway, little Old Testament reference for you.
Okay, so that's cool. But you're saying that this doesn't happen very often. Normally, we don't
Well,
see this kind
In
of
Israel, it didn't.
turnaround.
In Israel, not very often did people.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think in general, people are less apt to turn to God than than not. But sometimes they
Hmm.
do, and so when they do, it's pretty amazing what God does. When we turn to God, see, that's true. Again, you can take it. We talked about how on an individual or like a family level, you can have these grief and
Hmm.
these events, hardships, whatever it is, but
Right.
events that well, they shatter your reality. They shatter your schema, right? That's what you're talking about.
Right.
They shatter the family
Hmm.
schema.
Exactly.
And that's true. But it's
Right.
then where do you go once that schema's been shattered? Do you go back and try to put it all
Right. You're
together?
in chaos. What do you do?
That's what the
Yeah.
religious
So
leaders want to do.
naturally
They
we
want to get their
do.
boxes back in a
Yep.
row
Yeah.
and throw the
That's what
guys
she
who did
said.
it in prison.
In the cycle, in the psychology study that she was reading, that's exactly what we try to do. We try to live the same way. We try to operate under the same reality that doesn't exist anymore. It's our natural tendency to do that.
Yeah, and I think Jesus is God's calling us beyond that. It's like
Yep.
Moses in the burning bush. It's the same exact thing. All of a sudden he enters Moses's reality in a
Yep.
completely different way that Moses stops and looks and he's like, that bush isn't burning up. And then God speaks
Right.
to him because God got his attention. He has to get our attention first. And
Yeah.
then God speaks to him. And what he's trying to say is, you've been stuck here. It's time to move on. Like maybe you've let your sense of adventure get kind of stale. Maybe you think, you know what? At this point, I think my die is set. My reality is set. I'm like the blind
Hmm.
beggar laying out by that gate, like
Yep. This is
pretty
it.
much laid in.
This is it.
I don't have a lot of rungs on the ladder I'm going to climb to from here.
Yeah.
But that's not true with God. Our realities aren't
Like
set with God.
and like the beggar, I'm not even going to ask for healing. I'm just going to ask for some money.
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know enough to ask for the life change that I could get.
Right.
But the great thing is that I don't have to. God will give it to me anyway sometimes.
Hmm.
But then what are you going to do with it? You know what I'm saying? And then
Yep.
how's that going to affect the crowd? Well, its effect on the crowd was pretty amazing.
Right.
I mean, this is practically everybody watching comes to faith in Jesus.
Yeah.
I
Because
gotta
Peter's ready.
believe. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. So I don't know what else
Peter,
about this.
I don't know, we've just really seen a big change in Peter.
Hmm.
He's like kind of firmly rooted now, I feel like. We saw him in the beginning when he was unsure of himself and unsure of his faith and now he seems so firmly rooted and confident now, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's like Jesus
Yeah.
changed
It's
everything.
cool.
It's like 40 days with a risen Jesus, and then God
There you
indwelling
go.
you in the Holy Spirit, man. I mean,
Hmm.
where's the ceiling? That's what you got to ask yourself. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
God can pretty much do anything, and if we're willing to allow Him to, you know what I mean? There
Hmm.
was a oh, I'm gonna butcher it. There's a quote by Billy Graham that is something along the
Okay.
lines of the world has yet to see what God could do with a man completely sold out to him or something like that. I'm butchering it. And then it
Mm-hmm.
might not even be Billy Graham. I might be mashing that up with D.L. Moody. But anyway, it's somewhere
Mm-hmm. No,
something. Billy Graham said
it's a
something like
great
that if he didn't
concept.
say that, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't have it in front of me. So, but good. I don't know. What else? Anything else that we missed out? It is interesting that he says now's the time to change your ways. Turn
Mm-hmm.
to face God. For what reason? So God can yell at you, so he can tell you all the ways that you failed. So he can play a movie of your life on a screen in front of you and let you know what a piece of shit you were. No, that's not what he says.
Mm-hmm.
Turn to face God so he can wipe away
Mm-mm.
your sins, pour out showers of blessing to refresh you, and send the Messiah he prepared for you, namely Jesus. Like, that's a pretty good deal. Like
It is a
that's a
good deal.
pretty awesome
The
offer.
the other the other scenario that you described, that's what the enemy does.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The enemy like kind of feeds you like all the negative, like you've screwed up. You're too far gone. You're
Right.
unforgivable or,
It's kind
you
of when
know.
they try to scare people in out of hell into heaven, I feel like. You know what I mean? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's more a tactic, you're right, of the enemy than
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't seem like what Peter's doing.
No, it's not. It's really
Peter's saying you
pretty.
were deceived in all of this. You didn't understand what you're doing. Now turn to God so he can
Mm-hmm.
make you everything you were ever designed to be.
Right.
You know? It's life. And it's not some life just after you
Yeah.
die. It's not some ticket to get punched. It's life right here. Jesus came to give us life and life more abundantly right now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it continues on. That's
Yes.
cool. But the point is you don't have to wait for it. That's not the main draw. The main draw
Mm-hmm.
is to enter into life right now. You enter into eternal life right here.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense?
Right. And it's great too because the way Jesus has always presented it, and now Peter's presenting it this way is it's available. You just have to turn to it. You
Yeah.
just have to accept it and say, all right, I get it. Like that's it. It's there
Yeah.
for you. It's right there for you right
Yeah.
now.
But
Hmm.
you have to accept him as Lord, and you have to, and that's
Yep.
you have to reject self, and that's a hard one.
Yep.
It's hard to lay aside everything that you think, you were owed and we were made and you were going to do this and you were going to, it's hard to lay it all aside and say, Jesus, whatever you made me for is what I'll be. And then see what he does, which is start to tear you down brick by brick before he starts
Right.
to build you back up.
Right.
It's like a
Yeah.
really, really, really long remodel.
I was gonna say Peter's preview is pretty simple and straightforward. It's not always that way, but
Well, it's awesome though. It's a
yeah,
great.
it is.
All right, you think we did a good job? You think
Yeah,
that's
I think
enough to
so.
leave people with for 2 weeks?
I hope
Missing your
so.
presence? They can
Oh,
always go back and listen to old
missing
ones.
yours. I know. Go back and listen to one that you missed
Yeah.
or
Check out
something.
News Hour if you
Or
haven't.
go,
Home Improvement
yeah.
Show if you have
Hmm.
it. If I put one up. And check us out. We'll be on the socials everywhere else. Tell your friends about us. Thank you for joining us. Carrie, thank you.
Yep.
It's good today.
Thank you, Todd. Good job reading today. Good
And we'll be
discussion.
back in 2 weeks. Enjoy your time off. Enjoy your traveling and all whatever you're doing. I don't even know what all you're doing.
I'm doing all kinds of fun stuff next weekend.
Good.
Wedding, etc.
Oh, okay. Is the wedding in Michigan? Is it in Detroit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm. It
Cool.
is. Yeah, it'll be fun.
All right.
So,
Well, we're off then.
have a great week. 2 weeks, we're off.
You too. Then we'll be back, guys. Don't worry. We're not abandoning you for good. We'll be back in Acts 4.
Absolutely not.
All right. Thanks, Gary.
Cool.
See you next week. Thanks, guys, for
Thank you.
joining us. Appreciate it more than you know. Hope you'll share it with some friends. We will catch you next time.